Hey everyone, welcome back to Positively Questionable, the podcast where I'm positive and Bree's questionable. And by now you guys kind of know the drill. We're just two friends who just like to sit and chat and share our life stories with you guys. So I know on our last, on our last podcast we said we were going to have a guest. About 20 minutes ago, that guest bailed on us. Something came up with her. She promised she'd be on next week. And if she's not, we won't hold it against you if you stop listening to the podcast. But anyways, do you want to talk about what's on today's episode?
So today we are going to talk about co-op jobs because recently we got matched to our jobs, and we're going to talk about the ranking system and our thoughts on how Waterloo kind of navigates that. We're going to read some emails from our best friends and an
email from another listener, and talk about some of the topics that they bring up.
At the bottom of a real tall cold drink, I'm chilling with some Skinner and some old hay. Let's get this thing started. It's my kind of party.
Okay, so first we're going to introduce our first topic. So, co-op jobs. Luke and I are students at University of Waterloo, as you guys know. We're both Dons, but we are also, this term, we've been applying and interviewing for our co-op positions in the fall. So it'll be my third co-op job, and it'll be Luke's second. And so today we both got matched to jobs. So what that means is an employer will rank you after interviews, and then the rankings will be released, and then you rank the employers in return. And then if there's an algorithm that we'll kind of explain later.
There's some crazy ass math that goes on right there.
Waterloo, am I right?
Yeah.
So basically, I guess we should explain the algorithm. So it's the lowest sum is the job that you get matched to. So
for example, if an employer ranks you 1 and you rank them 1 back, your sum would be a 2, which would automatically be the lowest sum.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd be offered that job because you're given the lowest sum. And the employers rank the candidates from 1 to as many candidates as they have.
But they don't have to. They can just rank one person and not rank everyone else.
Yeah. Long story short,
anyway.
it's a really confusing process. But before we talk about our thoughts on that, let's talk about our jobs. So what did you end up...
What am I doing?
Yeah, what are you doing in the fall? Tell us about your Waterloo Works experience for this term.
Alrighty, so I had quite a busy co-op process this time. So basically my job, I'm going to be a professional development teaching assistant on campus with WAT PD, and Waterloo students will know every term while they're on co-op, they take these professional development courses, and they're basically developing soft skills like cultural awareness, teamwork, leadership, stuff like that.
How to not get fired.
Yeah, pretty much. So there's that. I'm going to be doing TAing for that, and on top of that, I'll be leading a research development course project, which I'm really, really excited about. And it'll be a ton of fun because I get to work with a lot of other students my age. So what are you doing, Luke?
I was offered a position with the Faculty of Engineering, working with their recruitment and outreach department, which is really exciting for me because I'm not in engineering. So it'll be a chance for me to learn a bit more about the faculty. It's one of the best engineering programs in the world, and it'll be really neat to learn more about it and sell it to students. And the job isn't really 100% just recruitment. It's also just like sort of raising awareness to people who maybe aren't as familiar with what engineering is. So, for example, that could be going into elementary schools to a grade 5 classroom and just sort of explaining like basic engineering concepts like coding or whatever that may be.
Which Luke was explaining to me last night.
Yeah, I was trying to teach Bree how to code, and I'm not a very good teacher. which is something that I'm really going to have to work on for this job.
That's okay. We'll work on it.
But anyways, I feel like a lot of it was going over her head. But.
Whoa. All right, we'll come back to this off air. Rude. All right, well, now that you know what...
I'm not saying it was your fault. A lot of it was probably because my teaching sucked.
No, I got it. You're a good teacher.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the ranking system. How do you feel about the algorithm and how UW does it? Because it's such a massive process, and it's a mathematical game, but it's also kind of mind games as well. Like, it's rolling the dice sometimes.
Here's what frustrates me. So, for those of you not familiar, the way it works is when you get your rankings, you'll be told one of three things for a job. You'll either be told that you're ranked number 1, meaning you were given the offer, or you'll be told that you were
just
ranked. So that means you were either ranked 2 or higher, or that you were not ranked. And then your task is for the jobs that you are ranked, either 1 or any other value, is you rank them back on a scale of 1 to 10. And then basically the computer adds up all the sums, and for all the candidates who rank jobs, it selects the lowest candidate, like the lowest sum for the candidate.
Yeah.
And that candidate is matched and receives the official offer. And personally for me, what really bothers me is knowing that you're ranked, but not knowing where you're ranked, because if you don't receive an offer, then it's not that big of a deal, because what makes the most sense if you want a job is to rank everything 1.
Yeah, because you're going for the lowest possible sum.
And that gives you the best chance to get a job. But if you're ranked, if you rank back, or if you receive an offer, if you're ranked number 1 and you rank that back number 1, that's your job for the term.
Yeah.
And but then if you want to take your chances with something else and rank that the offer something a little bit higher and rank all of your rankings a 1,
it's a game of chance.
Then you might be losing your offer at the same time.
Yeah. So then what happens if you don't get a match? You get put into continuous round, which is basically the same process, the interview, but the turnaround is much faster. So you'll have the interview, and then the next day you'll know if you've matched or not. Like, it's very fast.
Yeah, whereas during main round, you could have an interview, and then 4.5 weeks later, you finally find out if you got the job or if you were ranked. And so I think there is method behind the madness, but it's also the other way around. There's madness behind the method.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to figure out where you were ranked, and then sometimes you'll dig a little bit to find out who got the offer and ask them if they're thinking of accepting the offer. And I think it would make it a lot easier if you could know where you were ranked.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can make a bit more of an educated decision on how you complete your ranking form for the jobs.
I agree.
So I think that's a bit of a flaw in the system that maybe could be improved a little bit.
Yeah. And also, like we talked a lot about, employers tend to reach out to you outside of the co-op system, which kind of defeats the point of the co-op system. So you're supposed to base your decision solely on your rankings and your impression of your interview and stuff like that. And I know it's unrealistic to think that people don't do that, because it's especially huge in the tech industry. But, like, that biases your opinion, and then...
Yeah, and what's the point of having this really, like, mathematical and scheduled, laid-out process if there are employers that will still reach out to you and maybe let you know that they decided to give you an offer, or that they really liked your interview and you weren't the number 1 rank, but they'd be really satisfied if you were to be matched with them.
Mm-hmm. Overall, I like the system. Like, obviously, you know, I'm a huge advocate for the Waterloo brand, and I really like the soft skills that you're getting out of it, and you learn how to be competitive in the workforce and how to work on your interview skills and how to present yourself as a competent person. But I don't agree with the ranking system, and I think that could definitely be improved on. But overall, like, we are one of the top co-op programs for a reason, and we are getting great experience, but it's just, I don't know, the ranking sucks, and the co-op fee keeps going up, and I think the benefits outweigh sort of the negatives, but I think there's definitely room for improvement.
Yeah, I definitely think there's more good than harm done.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's the best co-op program in the world, and we're getting amazing experience. Even, like, it makes jobs so accessible, because if I didn't have this platform to apply to all these jobs, I'd be lost. Like, I wouldn't really know, like, I'd have an idea of where to begin looking for jobs, but I wouldn't be able to find near as many jobs to apply to, you know what I mean? And even if you don't, the other thing that I was thinking about, I was talking with one of my good friends about this, is even if you go through the entire first round and say you get 4 or 5 interviews, and even if you don't get ranked for any of them, you develop so many good interview skills from going through that interview process and maybe getting the nerves out, and then that makes you that much more comfortable for continuous round and interviews for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah, and you get all kinds of experience. Some interviews will be very, like for you, they'll be very technical, but for me, they're very behavioral and situational. And then I had a few interviews that were strictly just personality questions like that. So that is something that I've never really encountered before. Just an interview that was just a conversation, more personality, which also makes me more comfortable as a candidate and makes me feel better about the company that I'm interviewing. Because realistically, how much are you going to know about it besides the impression you get from the employers, what they tell you, and the research you've done on your own? You don't really know. So just letting you settle into that and getting that groove going and getting that experience, then you kind of get a feel of what you like, what you don't like. It sets you on a path for your life career that other schools don't have that advantage. So when we graduate, like, I hate to sound super snotty, but like, we're gonna have a leg up over other schools that don't do this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it builds you this massive resume.
Yeah.
Having 4 or 5 or sometimes even 6 work terms before you're even graduated. That's almost like, in some cases, it's 2 years of experience.
Yeah, like, connections are huge. Like, I'm kind of intending to, in between that gap between my undergrad and hopefully law school, I'd love to do contracts work at for the university, and having all these experiences, it just makes sense. Like, building that network, it seems like a logical transition. So, anyway.
Yeah, so that's our thoughts. If you guys have any thoughts on that, or maybe some exciting news on jobs that you've matched with and where you'll be working come the fall, let us know. Send us an email, positivelyquestionable18@gmail.com. And speaking of which, we're going to dive into a string of emails that we got from some of our favorite listeners. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is short and sweet. It's from my best friend, Lucas Slaughter McLean. He writes, Luke, you said you were a German fan before 2014. Some of my fellow listeners were calling you a bandwagoner. Thoughts? And a little bit of a backstory behind this one. Lucas and I, typical best friends, we like getting under each other's skin a lot. And this kind of goes back to when we were in high school. There were 2 sort of incidents where Lucas accused me of bandwagoning. He first brought it up in 2015 after Duke University won the NCAA basketball tournament. And I was all pumped. I was like, talking it up at school the next day at soccer practice. I was like, everyone see Duke won. So proud of my team for winning. And then obviously I was really pumped the year prior when Germany won the 2014 World Cup. And when I'm talking about Duke, Lucas says to me, Luke, you're such a bandwagoner. First you were cheering for Germany during the World Cup when they ended up winning it, and now you started cheering for Duke. And then I explained to him, he was unaware, but I explained to him, I have an uncle that at the time was a university professor at Duke, and that's what made me like Duke, and I've seen the campus. And then, like I mentioned on the last show, I'm of German heritage, and that's what made me start cheering for Germany. Anyways, ever since there's been this ongoing inside joke that I'm a big bandwagoner. So, anyways, Lucas, here's your shout out. Thanks for sending the email. You didn't answer our question that we put out to everybody. We asked everybody who they thought would win the World Cup, and you being such a good soccer player, I thought you would have actually answered that, but you actually have the attention span of a teaspoon. So, sorry about that, Lucas. But thanks for the email.
Okay, should I talk about
Yeah, we
my
can
email?
move on.
Okay, Anne, this is your shout out. So my best friend, Anne, I met her in first year. She was my roommate, and we have not been in Waterloo at the same time for about 2 years now. It makes me really sad. But anyway, Anne, this is your shout out. Love you very much. So Anne says, "Hi PQ, Bree's best friend here sending my love for the podcast. I think Jasper already has the title of #1 fan, so I'm not going to try and take that over, but loving the ideas and topics. Please update us on Jasper's celebration of life for that person's goldfish. I'd love to hear him as a guest speaker."
One, Anne. Okay. You clearly did not listen to our podcast.
What?
I explained that it was Jesper with an E, not Jasper.
Well, it's easily mistaken when you're just listening to it.
Well, we don't know this.
All right, don't attack my best friend, Luke.
We don't know this
attack
guy,
my best
Anne.
friend.
You could be in danger.
Luke. Okay, so there...
You could be. We don't know.
Seriously, we got another email from Jesper, and it's quite interesting,
Yeah.
but that's for another time. So she said, "I just want to start off with putting it out there that I'm convinced that the Avril Lavigne conspiracy is fake. You guys gave me all the details, but I'm just not totally sold on it. It's simply just positively questionable." What do you think, Luke? Are you mad?
Okay, again, you're wrong. You're wrong about
I
Jesper's
still
name.
love you, Anne, though.
And I think the Avril Lavigne conspiracy is true, but to each their own. And don't worry, I don't hate you yet, Anne.
We'll see. So then the last part of her email, she said, "Another idea for an upcoming podcast could include going to see The Incredibles 2. It's such an iconic childhood movie, and I'd like to hear Anne." Oh, Anne, you spelled "hear" wrong. Oh, Anne.
She said, "I'd like to hear your opinions." H-E-R-E.
I still love you, Anne.
Anne,
Okay.
that's 3 strikes. You're out.
No,
Get out of
she's
here.
not. She's #1 in my heart. She said, "I'd like to hear your opinion." Sorry, we're so snotty about this. Your opinions on the second one, as well as the short film before it. Okay, can we just talk about that for a minute? I heard the short film before it
The
was
short film is
weird.
best.
So Luke has seen it.
Okay, so
I
we're
have
not-
not
okay.
seen it yet. So we're going to touch on this movie next week, but the short film is weird. And then she said, "There was so much girl power and feminism in it that I think it's important for kids to be exposed to. And the short film before was made by a Canadian and represents her heritage and culture with an interesting topic attached to it."
Oh, it was interesting. I'll tell you that for sure.
Anyways, love you, Bree. Keep being questionable. Luke, you're doing positively great too. Take care. And then she wanted a shout out. So,
This
Anne,
is your
here's your
drawn out
shout-out.
shout out. That's longer than it should be for someone who made 3 mistakes in one email.
miss you. Love you. You deserve the shout out.
But anyways, yeah, that short film, I don't want
Strange.
to. Really, really weird.
My favorite short film is I was telling you the one with the birds where there's the
Oh, yeah,
and on
for
the
the
wire.
Oh, and
Yeah.
I think one of the classics is Jerry's Game. It's the one right before A Bug's Life, and it's this old man who sits down at a table in the park and brings out a chessboard, and he plays a game of chess against himself for his false teeth. The winner gets the false teeth, but the way that the viewers see it, it's like there are 2 people playing against each other, and it just like seems as if it's 2 people. But anyways, that's my favorite short film.
Yeah. So stay tuned. We will talk a little bit more about it next week. I'm really excited because I really actually like girl power and stuff like that. So, all right. Are we going to talk about Nikhil's email? So
Yes.
my friend Nick, hi Nick, he emailed us and he sent us a pretty cool email. So he said, "Hi Bree and Luke, love the podcast. I came across something online a while back and thought it would be cool to hear your take on it. It was a story about a customer walking into a coffee shop and ordering 3 coffees, one for themselves and 2 suspended coffees. When the person behind them asked the barista why the person paid for 3 coffees but only took 1, the barista explained that suspended coffee is available for anyone that walks into the shop and asks for it. It's for those who need it. They don't judge or ask why. If you ask for a suspended coffee, we believe you need one. So the second person also bought 2 coffees, 1 for themselves and 1 in suspense. Sure enough, a while later, a homeless person walked in and asked the barista, do you have any suspended coffees? The barista then gave the homeless person a coffee that was paid for by someone else's kindness. The idea behind this was to pay it forward. Do good for someone else, and one day they will do so themselves. Do you think this is something we could successfully run here? Why or why not? What do you think, Luke?
I think, well, definitely a university campus that's this capable. That's obviously something that we can do, and that we could implement
Easily.
And we have such influence on the Waterloo community.
Mm-hmm.
And I know even like interacting uptown Waterloo, there are a lot of individuals who are less fortunate. So there are definitely people in the community that would benefit from it. And I think that'd be like an amazing initiative by a Federation of Students, Feds, if they could sort of like spearhead that and get some of the other influential student groups on board,
Mm-hmm.
like even some student societies from different faculties, and sort of feed that into even like an announcement before certain classes, just bring awareness to these initiatives that they're doing. I think that'd be a really easy way for the University of Waterloo to make real positive change in the Waterloo community. And it's something that can add to our reputation, as well as doing something that's really like wholesome and loving for people that are less fortunate than us and living around us.
Yeah, no, I think you put it perfectly. I really like social justice and stuff. That's really important to me. One of my good friends actually started. So another idea is nonprofits. Those do these kind of initiatives. So I have a good friend who started a nonprofit that collects. It's called Cup of Change, and they collect Tim Hortons during Roll Up the Rim. When people win like a coffee or a donut or something like that, they collect them and then they redistribute to less fortunate people who kind of need that. So I think stuff like that is really cool, and you're totally right. People have so much power, especially being so influential at UW and Laurier being across the street. Like, it's definitely something that's doable.
Yeah, down the street.
Down the street, whatever. Oh, Luke. Okay, so
I'm in geomatics. Mapping is what I do.
I don't need a GPS. I just take Luke everywhere with me. Okay, so thank you for that, Nick. I've never really heard of suspended coffees. I've heard of buying one for someone behind you, but yeah. I really, really love that. And then the second part of Nick Hill's email, he says, I was also a residence Don last term, and the idea of paying it forward was my motivation behind becoming a Don. I wanted to ask, why did you guys become Dons, and how do you like it so far? Cheers, Nick.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So, anyone that knows me will kind of know that I do a lot of things on campus, and I really like to be involved, and I guess like the cheesy answer would be when I came to university, I didn't really know who I was. I was kind of uncomfortable being involved and getting to know other people. So university was kind of like a growth experience for me. And throughout my positions at the university and meeting all these really cool people and stuff like that, it really kind of opened me up. So it just seemed like a natural progression for me being a Don. I think it's really important to help other people have these experiences and figure out who they are and where they want to go, both academically and personally. Just working on that sense of self and that confidence and everything, and that was huge for me. So I just it's really important to me to help others do that as well. So what about you, Luke?
This is gonna sound a little bit cliche. Not entirely, but being a Don is something that I've always thought is something that would be really cool. From the time that I saw my eldest sister go to school, and she told me what a Don was, and I thought it'd be really neat to eventually do one day. And then my older brother Chris, who went to school in Ottawa, he was like their equivalent of a Don in residence there, and he enjoyed his experience there. And then in first year, I got really close with my Don, and I'm really good friends with him still. And I just like saw the impact that he could have on a group of students and an entire community.
Yeah.
And mentorship has always been something that I really like. Like, I really like just like being that go-to figure for people. So I applied to be a Don right out of first year, and was lucky enough to get the position to start in fall 2017, so last fall. And yeah, it was like it lived up to all of my expectations. I had a couple friends, and my other brother did it with me as well, and so we were all on campus. And it really it's a really challenging job in terms of not really knowing what to expect going into it, and even still, at any given time, like things could come up that you don't really like, you've never really seen before. So I like that aspect, that it's always challenging you, and it's something that really personally you can always benefit from. And I don't know, I've just like made some really good relationships with some students that I've done for. I've become friends with some of my fellow Dons. Well, I'm friends with all of them, but I've become like closer friends with, yeah, with fellow Dons. And with my job being in Waterloo, I'm able to do it again. Yeah. So I'm going to be doing Donning again in fall and winter of next year.
Yeah, I am really loving Donning so far. Like, same for me. It's always been something that's kind of been on my radar, and I knew I wanted to round out sort of my experience with Donning. And I'm not able to do it in the fall just simply because I have another role that for orientation that it just doesn't work out. But I'm extremely happy and grateful that I had this opportunity, because I got to make some awesome friendships and continue to challenge myself and stuff. So
the other thing that I really like about like the Don team is that it's one of those groups, one of those like leadership groups on campus that brings together people of all different faculties and programs.
Yeah.
It's not like your environment student society or your math student society where it's all math students. You get a little bit of like a little piece from
everything.
And you really get to kind of understand like better how the university runs, because you know people who are involved in different programs, and then other people are often involved in different groups. Like Bree's involved with orientation committee. There are lots of people who also like keep up part-time jobs on the side. And then people who, you know, some of them are varsity athletes, some of them play intramurals casually as a way to stay fit. And you really see a bunch of similarities and differences between the entire team. And it's really neat seeing such a diverse group come together and all do the same job.
And I think it's a really well-run sort of department within the university. Like, it's just so positive and encouraging and inviting of that self-development, and I really, really love that. That mentorship is there, like whether it's from your supervisor or your peers, or even learning from the situations that come up with your students. Like, you're right, it's basically on-the-job learning. Like, you don't really know what you're going to be walking into when you come home sometimes. So just having that flexibility and like being adaptable, that's like a skill you're not going to get from school.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Supervisors, we like are really lucky to have pretty great supervisors. Yeah. Especially like the two supervisors that we have this term. They both have seem to have a perfect balance of like fun and professional, and caring and loving for us personally. while maintaining, again, that like professionalism and always challenging us to like step outside of our comfort zone and kind of broaden our horizons.
Yeah, and like I'm assuming Luke as well as myself, that's kind of the leader that we see ourselves growing into, and being able to be that person for other people who's compassionate and caring, but also reliable and professional and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Definitely a great experience, and would 11 out of 10 recommend it.
Can confirm.
I think that is it for
I
the
think
episode.
so.
I think we have it right around a half hour.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Awesome.
Anyways, thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm Luke and she's Bree.
I'm positive and Luke's questionable.
Take care.